p.m. on Thursday, September 13th, 2018. First thing on our agenda this evening is citizens to be heard. This is part of the hearing or commission meeting that we have. Any citizens that want to bring up any subjects that are not on the agenda this evening? And looking out into the audience, there is no one. So we will go to action item number 2, which is the approval of minutes for August 9th, 2018 and August 23rd, 2018.
I move that we approve the minutes.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Number 3 on our agenda this evening is a discussion item of the planned affordable development, the PAD ordinance, and the assured workforce housing. Jeff?
Can I go real quick? It'll only take a minute. I think I'll make the meeting quicker. Last week I asked that we discuss the MOU that I brought up. I'd like to go ahead and withdraw that. I was home for 3 days this week and met with a lot of the local people at our barbecue. And I think we're going to take a different tact. They convinced me that I don't think it should attach to the debt. I'd also like to withdraw the discussion on the segregation housing in this project. After doing the math, I went and looked at the Utah State Code, and I believe that it's already covered, and I don't want to waste time on something redundant. And then last meeting, we had a discussion of why preservation and character was in the zoning code, and I'd just like you all to know that I submitted a paper for clarification for the city, and if it comes back and they deem we should discuss it, then we can. I was just, I guess, inartfully trying to get my thoughts out of your brain and how I came to that conclusion. So that's all I have to say. I think it'll speak to me.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Josh?
Okay, no problem. Thank you. So we left off discussing the PAD. I listened beautifully to nearly all of the recording of the last meeting. And so I had, let me see if I can get this up. I'm having trouble connecting right now. Let's see if this will work. So some of the comments, anyway, that were incorporated, I made a list that I was hoping to show you. For some reason, I am not connected to that unit in there. But from the 823 meeting and from the last meeting we talked about, we wanted to add the definition of extremely low and using that trigger 30% or less of local AMI. And then we're adding, what's that? Oh, yeah, it's on the email. Then we also added habitable room, which we discussed at length, I think, and fairly thoroughly with the graphics on the big screen out there. Sorry, it's under the planning department.
Let's see if we can pull it up.
In a cab.
Oh my gosh.
Come on in. Intimidating, isn't it?
I can't stay. But I'll leave what I brought. Okay?
Thank you.
It's our anniversary today. I cannot stay.
Congratulations.
Anniversary. today.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, Barbara.
Is it always this empty for crying out loud? They're late, I guess.
That's right.
What's it called, Jeff? I'm sorry. Pad 17?
Comments from PC.
No.
It's about, so it's planning department pad and then pad comments from PC.
So what did you guys decide on the habitable room sort of size that you came to conclusion in? Okay.
So, no, we had talked about that.
I had comments from PC.
This thing's just going in circles.
Will you close out a bit?
Yes.
Let's see if we can.
It's not my move. Okay. There you go.
Hold on. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone.
That's why paper always works.
Right. Yep. There we go.
Okay. Can you guys see it on this one? Oh, I'm so happy. Okay. So, you know, I wonder if we shouldn't go to the PowerPoint. Do we need to do that? Pull up habitable room and the definition and all that stuff?
No.
Okay, good.
So these are all the changes that we discussed last time, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Isn't that nice that you don't have to turn around and look at that
Yes.
right now?
I like that a lot.
It's so much better. So, let's get down here real quick.
Where do you want me to go?
Pardon me?
Where do you want me to go?
I think you can stay right there for now.
Okay.
Do you want to discuss the habitable room and the size of the structures at this point? No?
I mean, it's true, but I thought this was interesting. I just asked the young lady who left here why she didn't stay. It's her 60th wedding anniversary.
She said.
Did she tell you that?
Yeah, she said it was her anniversary, but didn't tell us.
60 years.
It's stellar.
Oh, man.
That's amazing. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought it was-
That's okay.
Last time we talked about the habitable, you know what I'm trying to say. Thank you. Could you look at page 2, the little handout put together? I had a lot of fun with this. Is this habitable in the city?
Do you have one for Jeff? Just so we have one for Jeff. Okay.
Yes.
With the bathroom in the kitchen.
And then the bathroom and the kitchen.
Multitasking.
It was an apartment.
Yes. I considered rental, that's why I went ahead and made copies. I don't know.
I mean, we discussed that, that's the possibility.
Yeah,
There we did.
that's why I put it number 1, that was the worst. But I meant, I'm sorry, in the city code, the bathroom and the kitchen, is that, you know what I mean? Is that passable? The recycling?
Well, Summer, we talked about that, is that in the code, the Utah State Code, would that be allowed?
I don't think under building code that would be allowed, would it?
That's what I'm
I don't
asking.
know.
Well, I don't know if anybody followed that up,
I'll tell you that city code doesn't talk about bathrooms and kitchens. We talk about setbacks and building height and
Yeah, I
that.
couldn't find it.
That sort of
but
stuff.
there may not be any restrictions
That's what I was.
that I'm aware of, anyway.
I imagine that there's probably something under building code as far as like sanitation and health code and that sort of thing. I don't think you could actually have a toilet in a kitchen.
That's what it should
Right,
say.
right.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure there's no,
Don't buildings have to get signed off by the health department as well?
no,
The houses do not. Yeah.
Not residential, as long as it follows code.
but I'm afraid that's what you're gonna run into if you start going lower than 300 square feet, and that's where I stand. So I think that we should have some, maybe we don't wanna discuss that, but without 300 square feet, I'm afraid that that's what we're gonna be running into.
I'm sorry, I disagree a little bit with that. Again, I had a lot of company. If it picture 3, that's 145 square feet, and that's all up and down the East Coast. I didn't find that too bad of a living area. I mean, you couldn't have a couple in there. Or
12 by 12 is 144 square feet. What'd you say?
145 square feet.
So it's 12 by 12.
Yeah, a little bit over 12 by 12.
And if you take out a foot for the framing,
Each end 12.
Yeah.
huh? Well, yeah. I mean, 12 by 12 is a queen size bed is 6 by 5.
No, I think in this, I said it would be great for a single last time.
Well,
Kind of brought
here's the
retired
question.
people, I don't know.
Can you fit a single bed, some sort of kitchen in here and an enclosed bath?
Yeah.
And you can like an extreme trailer.
Yeah, if you looked at the picture, just.
And is that what we want in our
Well-
housing market and all that? That's the next question. Is that what we want in our housing market and all that?
And you just,
It may be what we need to have, though, to
Yeah.
get people in there.
Okay, it's just a question.
Yeah, good question.
I mean, the
I love that
example on the
300 square
front-
feet. I really
The
do.
front of what Dave gave, I mean, this is,
That's 300 square feet, but it's, yeah,
And the reason I put that forward, I didn't write on each one.
but that's like spacious
It
in
is.
comparison.
well, it all depends. You may not have everything in that.
Yeah, well, just pick some. This, the reason I put on the front, and I've got the paperwork here if you want to read it. To get a mortgage, you have to have 400 square feet. I called the FHA, the parking spot square feet, which is usually 120, pushes you over the 300 into the 400 mark. So I thought, Brian, and I really liked that idea, that it just wouldn't be this as a rental, you could actually make a profit off this, and people could get mortgages. I'm sorry.
Now, would parking be included in this footprint of the house, the square footage included
According
below?
to the FHA, that's all that I called. That's how they're passing the 400-foot criteria.
So are we back to a discussion of size now, of minimum size? That's what I'm wondering, if we need to talk about that again.
I don't think we have to, it all depends, but we're gonna have to at some point, because we want to make a recommendation, don't we?
Well, I mean, have we not, correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at the minutes and looking at the revisions that were in there, what Jeff just added, is that there is no minimum project area required for a pad development. And that seems to be the consensus that we came to at the last couple meetings, but if we need to reopen that, then we should.
Well, that's a project area, that's not a building size or domicile size.
We just approved it last time, and we did to home ownership. I'm trying to point out that both are eligible under the pad.
I think part of the point was that with no lot size, you would probably want to build a smaller, possibly as small a unit as you can, so.
We didn't say
reality,
any
you
limit
could-
on the building size
Yeah.
the only limit we had was the 7 by,
for a livable
By
space
10, 70 square feet, but that
Yeah,
was
for
one room
habitable
has,
space,
right,
and that's,
in a room.
yeah.
Right. So you have that, and then you go 6 by 6 bathroom, and then about 10 square feet for a kitchen.
I think is probably one of the most important aspects of this, is how big is the building going to be, what's the minimum? I think that's really important, because the people who build it are going to turn around and sell it. And,
I'm sorry.
and I think that we have to be protecting them.
Well, and we will with deed restrictions.
Well, I know that, with that part of it, but
Yeah. So it'll be limited on how much they could actually make on it. So,
I'm not too worried about building size, I'm worried about occupation.
What do you mean now?
occupying,
You know, you have a 100 square foot home and you have 7 people in it. That's what I'm worried about.
Okay. On the last page shows 120-foot luxury. They call labor units. And I get that kind of confused.
Like I said, I'm not, build as small as people want. I'm afraid of occupancy.
Well, I have to be, yeah, I mean, you'll cut out a bit of it because there's restrictions on how many unrelated people can occupy. Are there not in Utah?
Our definition of family is very wide.
Interesting. Okay.
and besides that, it's hard to police that. You know,
Yeah, and the only way to decide
That is very, very true.
is if a neighbor turns you in because nobody's out searching for something.
Right.
But even still, it's very difficult. You cannot ask someone's relatedness, how they're related. You cannot ask their familial status. I mean, it's protected under the fair housing standards, so you're.
Yeah, Fair Housing Act.
Oh, yeah.
And
The only way is
makes sense.
you would have to think about, if you wanted to do something about occupancy, you would have to set some sort of minimum size per occupant, per housing unit. In other words, if you want a housing unit for one person, it could be, I don't know, whatever, something pretty minimal, and if you add another person, each of those people have got to have a certain amount of living space. That's the idea behind that living space, the size of a room being a certain size, is that each person should have that much space. But we're not spelling that out clearly.
Can we legally put those restrictions on?
Yes.
Okay.
So, a little bit of background, I guess. For a long time, a lot of states have adopted a 2-person occupancy per room. That excludes kids.
Yep.
And so that was deemed unconstitutional at that point. So, and families with children. So if there was only a 2-bedroom and you had 6 or 7 people in that family, you can't not. You have to rent to them.
Yes.
I remember something about, though, there are, like, a child who's 7 years old has to board with another child of the same gender. Is that a law in Utah still? So that you can't have like a 13-year-old boy and a 7-year-old girl in the same room or something like that?
I would be shocked if Utah legislated original things that closely.
But getting back to occupancy, I think that is part of our job. We can
Yeah.
let them build tiny things, but.
I agree with you, Allison, if that's something that we have the capacity to do, because I think that would accomplish, I think in a way it will be, we're gonna catch, I think, the most potential bad actors that way versus the size thing.
Right, because
I
I'm
think-
afraid they're.
Yeah, because I think we're gonna limit more things that we can't yet anticipate that we might be in favor of with the size restrictions, but by trying to set some sort of occupancy requirements or restrictions, we're gonna, like you said, you're not gonna be able to have 7 people in your 300-foot
Right,
apartment, which,
because I'm afraid people would take advantage of employee housing.
yes. 1 or 2 people to occupy it, I mean, that would be I think, a huge benefit to, the whole point is like maybe we're gonna create new housing so that single-family houses can be for single families, not for
Right.
10 unrelated go-guys who need a place to live May through October. So,
And I suppose that if we make these requirements for the pad, we have to disregard what's happening out there now for things that are not pad.
yeah,
So this would just have to be new legislation for the stuff that we're trying to build here.
Can you have like subletting laws, like the person under the affordable housing that they sign up for because they're an employee? Can there be a regulation that says that they're not allowed to sublet it to anyone else? Only one person can be on the mortgage paying the, or on the, paying rent or whatever?
That's a good comment. Some of the business owners that I know who provide housing, that's exactly, that wording is in the lease, that you're not having anybody staying with you to help you.
It'd be breaking the law because it'd be a nightly rental or a weekly rental.
Sure could
So
be.
in that way, that would be excluded.
but we're not talking like a restriction on subletting for someone who's on the lease, just generally, this would be a special circumstance.
Well, like when someone applies for housing, they're taking responsibility for paying for the space. And if they're having like visitors there all the time, that might be kind of like a breach of what they've agreed to.
There's
in the
probably a
contract.
breach between whoever they're leasing or buying from, and not between them and the state.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's restrictions in leases, like you can't have guests for more than 5 consecutive days at a time, and then there has to be a 14-day period in between before you have them again. I mean, I've seen that's fairly common in leases.
And a lot of affordable housing.
Yeah. What I would hate, the reason I'm a little wary of restrictions on subletting is things happen in people's lives, and you really hate to have a situation where someone can't get out of their lease when there's someone else who would like to take it over. Because they have to leave their bad job 2 months early, and someone's coming in, and there's a housing need, and then you have someone who's not living there who's continuing to pay. And
We want it to be.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think we want the city enforcing that.
No, that's all.
Yeah.
Have it be lease enforced.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't want the city
We don't
to,
want to get into that business.
have any sort of,
Jeff and Summer, could you do some research on occupancy requirements for?
Yeah.
And see if there's.
it would make sense that the sublet, you would also have to, if you were the subleasee, you would have to meet the same requirements that the subleasor had already.
If you
Just
want
like
to do
I
some
had.
research, look up Charleston, Illinois. I think they did a great job because of the university there, and the topic that we're talking about. They actually, in their zone, put in a classification for student housing. But I think you could convert that over very much to what I was saying.
I do have some right now, and that's why I've been searching back since it's been a while since I visited that, because we did do a discussion with the council. It was actually a planning department update, but I brought up the fact about Wilmington and boarding houses, and how in the past, they were the affordable housing in a community, and we totally, we pretty much outlawed them altogether. It's very hard to.
There's some communities sometimes.
Right, but it's hard to find property. And then some areas, like the R2, which is our biggest zone, we have properties that could certainly contain that type of use, but we're not letting that happen. So,
I mean, it's happening sort of informally, right? There's
Yes.
definitely houses around town that, they have 6 rooms, and, you get to know various people. I have friends who live in a variety of houses that are like, oh, is there a room open at the 200 West house or something right now? So it certainly becomes that. It's not ever like one person is the main person on the lease. It's the landlord, I imagine, deals with all the rooms on separate leases, but I mean, it would be nice to have some sort of set guidelines if the city had more of a say in it, if it was allowed again.
So we can do research on that, get you much.
It's kind of interesting because in the public space, it's very common to have maximum occupants. Like that sign over there.
It's for fire and health safety.
Right.
So there ought to be some way to do that.
Well, in fact, that's what a lot of occupancy regulations are based on, is the building code. The building code is loaded with it. You can look at a chart, see how many square feet per occupant for various types of uses. So it'd be fairly simple to convert that over. One that they are using, and it's in the property maintenance code as well as what we discussed up here with the 70 square foot room. And that's pretty much what they figure is a starting point for more than one person to live in a dwelling.
7 by 10.
International.
Less than 20.
So to go back though, to become legal, and the new trend with them was to go 2 per bedroom plus 1. And that apparently has satisfied the courts on some level at this stage. But, some of the others, the courts are there's a lot of case law surrounding that now. And of course, that stems from the Fair Housing Act requirements.
I know that some big cities, the Murphy bed is coming back, so you might have.
It's coming, moving beds are already here. The new development And I actually asked how much this were to build, $250,000 a pop. Yes. I was like, I went, what?
To build?
To build.
And they're,
Something's wrong there.
Yeah.
and they are 400 square feet, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
so-
they're just like super expensive. They're asking 250, because I asked.
Well, they're for rent, they're not, that's just,
Right, right.
was it, what's the guy's name?
I don't know.
Anyways,
But yeah, it was like,
But-
what? But yeah, they're.
but don't let that throw you because
Yeah,
they
they'll
are,
throw you. But they're super duper 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 duper.
they are really
nice.
nice.
Yeah.
You'll build it for half
This
that.
is just my personal shock.
Oh, it is a
Not
shock.
any professional
It's a
planning
shock,
or
it's a shock. It was a shock. I'm like, what? But even smaller houses, go with 70?
Yeah.
$70 a square foot, what are you talking about?
70,000.
70,000 for a
This
small
one's
home?
off of Mill Creek, and they could build them for 70,000 or
I don't know
80,000.
where you're talking, that's not land, that's just a home.
That's just the home, it's not the land.
So,
Yeah, I think it's like 30 to 50,000 for a tiny house,
Mm-hmm.
from what I've browsed
To buy
around
it?
and seen.
to buy it, I mean, move it on, or to build it?
To build it.
30 to
Here in
50,000.
Yeah, I
No,
would
it's
say
just,
so.
no,
I
not
would-
the land, just.
I would say
just
if you're gonna build
materials
it
cost.
for 50, at maybe 300 square feet,
Right.
because your impact and all those things are the same.
Is that stick to roof or prefab?
I think they're prefab.
Prefab.
Well, I'm talking stick frame.
Oh, really? I don't know, the ones off of Mill Creek, you know, the new ones, they're
I don't.
Moab, Washington Fold is
Well, yes.
over there.
Oh, right behind it?
Oh, those
Yeah.
fire traps.
Oh, they'll probably move on, Jeff.
Okay.
Fire traps.
I don't know, but
Yeah, because there's no.
You're sleeping in the loft, if there's fire at the front door, you can't get out.
That's true.
I found these, a prefab out of Pennsylvania, and they're 200,000 per townhouse.
200,000.
And they're delivered under state, city code, they're pre-layered, everything, you just need, they come assemble it, and then you get a local electrician, a little plumber to hook up to the city. But that doesn't count the extreme cost of land.
Yeah. I mean, you can get like prefab engine these days.
Well, you
It's
can,
crazy.
totally.
Yeah.
You can.
sure.
I live in like what you would think of as a prefab house, like it looks like one, but there's some that's just like, you know, they just happen to be constructed mostly elsewhere, and that's the qualification, really.
It's like Park City, if you put,
Yeah.
you know, prefab home in Park City is $500,000.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, to get financing for construction, right, you have to show that I get a 22% profit, am I not remembering that right?
Well, there's a form you fill out that requires a profit, but what that profit is, I don't know.
Yeah. I basically did, remembering
But
what that would be to get, you know, to get them here, but I just found it unfeasible with the price of land. Not that I'm trying to profit or would I ever do this, just not.
But most likely what's going to happen here is that once a developer puts this in play, where he can sell these lots that have no minimum size, there's only a setback, that's all that's required, right, Jeff? Just a setback on, right now, that this lot size can be any size,
Right,
okay?
so the exterior setbacks are whatever you would want to zone
Is
is,
going to determine
and then the inside will all be based on the
the
building code.
size of the home.
Well, the building code on the interior,
Right.
on a multi-family.
Right, so I think that the reality of it is he'll probably sell a lot to somebody to build their own home, right? Or do you think somebody's gonna build these to rent them?
I thought that was the change that we made, that we were requiring it to be a land
Yeah.
package. It wasn't
Yeah.
that we were allowing it to just be a subdivision and the person could walk away. That was one of
Yeah.
the changes we made in our
Yes.
last discussion.
Yes.
Oh, so they can't walk away? Is that-
No.
So, let's go back up to this, I guess. We talked about the access, 20 feet in width, that's pretty standard, that's a fire alarm. It's better than every code in the world, just about. We did ask if we needed a definition of lot price. If there's some description or qualifying mechanism or words to that effect that would limit that. But so if somebody just did a subdivision, what could they make on that lot? And actually, I think you guys all got this last time with the blue in it. So that was inserted, let's see, or at least some language. And Wayne commented on that, and he felt that maybe this addressed his.
My concern, I mean, at least, because that's not the way I was perceiving this being used, was subdivided. It just seemed like, you know, you're just leaving the chance for them to get housing where you're still giving away to
I think it makes enforceability a nightmare
Yeah.
when you,
Absolutely.
and the follow through.
And my printed copy is on page 21.
The problem is the printed copy that you're referring to is not the same one that ended up in the packet.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Take care of lot price in the definition of affordable housing where it says,
Yeah.
it talks about the sale of a lot or unit or rental rate for each unit does not exceed some, doesn't that cover the lot price?
Well, the fear was that a developer would come in, lay it all out, get it all in, and then sell lots and take off. And that, in a nutshell.
Yeah, that would be it, but it can go one step further. He can build a home on the lot and sell it.
Right.
Okay, so he's gonna realize that first profit. And the way things are going right now, that first profit that's gonna be made is gonna be quite nice. Don't you think, Jeff? I mean, if he builds that little lot, and he can sell that lot for 40,000, is what he's gonna get for that little tiny thing that's gonna be, what, 20 by 20? 20 by 30 maybe? Something like that according to this. And so he's gonna really put all those lots in, then he can put a little home on it. And I think what he's gonna do is he's gonna sell that for 100,000. He's gonna take that profit right now. That's the way I see it. So how do we stop that from happening? How do we keep that from the first profit that's made is going to be maybe the last profit that's made for quite a while? So there's one person who benefits the most.
Why do we not want that though?
Well,
Because the point is to incentivize developers to, with the incentive of denser, to develop housing that they will then sell to meet the requirements of what our restrictions are.
Yeah, there's still a huge restriction.
There's still a restriction, they still, so that developer, by entering into this, it will be, that will confine what he or she can sell the house for unit.
For the second sale? For the second
Yes,
sale?
it carries with the land.
For the second sale,
Yeah.
so I understand that.
And then there'll be built-in increments. So maybe it's, for that year, it's 3% that they, the next year, I should say, that
Yeah.
they could sell it for above what they paid. And then also they would give some credits for any improvements that they had made to the home. But it'll be a, you know, and to just say it's going to shoot up. Unfortunately, I think housing has gotten a black eye from the perceived abuse of the self-help program, and where somebody builds their house and 2 years later they sell it for twice what they have in it.
Yep.
And that's exactly what our code says.
That whole, pardon me?
That's exactly what the code says. It says, sales, under sales eligibility, it says total household net assets shall not exceed 2 times the original purchase. Oh no, I'm reading the wrong thing, sorry. Sorry.
So I think we based it at 3% over.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was
yeah,
a formula for
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
3%.
And I thought the formula went across rentals and across sales. And
Yes.
that was the discussion that we had the last time, so that we made that change,
Is
that
it a compounded rate? That makes a very big difference in the price.
you're absolutely right. And I don't think it was supposed to be. I don't remember the discussion there. I know we had the discussion about somebody buying it in October and then selling it
Right.
in January and being able to capitalize on the percentage this year and the percentage that year, and we said that it was from purchase, from date of purchase. So we tried to eliminate that loophole. But I don't know that it's specific as to whether it's, I mean, I don't think it should be compounded.
No, it goes real fast.
Right,
It's compounded.
right.
Sure.
I mean, you could have a developer who builds something, leaves it empty for 3 years.
And it comes
or
back and
rents
it's,
it, and
here we
then
go.
it's not too far off what
right.
they could do at market rate. I just try to think, I'm sitting here trying to think of all the worst case scenarios.
And that's
how
the
this
thing,
could
is
be
you
applied.
really can't, I mean,
Yeah.
you really can't think of every loophole that someone is going to try to use. We just have to do our best to make it as rock solid as possible. So I think specifying that it's not compounded is something that needs to be included in here,
Yes.
which is a fairly simple fix. And then, you know, and it's talking about a developer coming in and selling a single lot or even a single lot with a house. We're not talking about single lots. It's an actual development. There are multiple lots, and in that there are certain percentages of housing types and
Yes.
income types.
And you can't sever it or else those percentages would.
And that was something that we talked about a couple of times ago to address that issue. So I think we've covered a lot of those bases, that somebody's not going to be able to come in and just divvy up 1,000 square foot lot and sell it off and make $100,000. That's not what this is intended for.
So I've seen some global models of how affordable housing works well. One of the best ones I saw was where a number of families go into this together and hire one architect, and that one architect designs one building, and each one of those families has a unit within the building that meets their individual needs. That was the most incredible project I've ever seen. So knowing about that project, are we zoning to be able to do something like that here? Would that be an option that we're doing here with the zoning that we're creating now?
I would say that the pad would definitely cover some sort of option like that.
Or would that,
The whole idea for the pad was to allow options, so.
Would that allow multiple owners then, or multiple buyer developer? Because then in that situation, we're contemplating sort of the big hand developer, but in that particular situation, how would that?
you're creating like a unit, like a condo unit almost.
Yeah. So then it would be the HOA that would purchase and develop the land?
That could possibly
Okay. I just want to make sure, because you're right, that's cool. We don't want to preclude, we don't want to preclude cooperation with people if you can't, you know, because certainly in that situation, as one of those families, I would not want to be like the lead name on the thing, you know, without equal culpability with everyone else, so.
But I can also see, I mean, even with the
Incorporate
price of
ourselves.
lots in town, and, you know, it may take 2 or 3 or 4 families to be able to purchase and build and to do that. And I'm hoping that what we're allowing through the pad would allow that to happen. So I think that would be a really cool development to see happen.
So I think, let's go through this sheet really rapidly, and then, is that still showing? Because it'll, I think, answer some people's questions as to what was covered and stuff, so. Anyway, kind of with the definition of lot price, we also asked below that specificity of the percentages of each income level. How much can someone make on their land? And, you know, I think in some respects that is addressed in this right now, but I think we need to clarify. And also, we were talking about specifying allowed percentages, so you can have 20% market rate, but then 80% must target all the other income levels with 5% minimum for very low to extremely low. That's part of why we added back in the definition of extremely low.
So that would exclude all moderate income project. Okay.
Pretty much, even though state law says you're supposed to have a moderate income housing plan.
We do, it just includes others.
That's
Right.
So then we added this about the phase of development, that affordable units must be incorporated into each phase of the project. So somebody's not come in and build it at 80% or all market rate anyway in their first phase. It's got to be broken up.
Good.
So I think that'd be And that's pretty
Wait, say
typical.
that again, sorry, indicates a base development affordable, yes, okay, yeah.
The problem you run into is that when you run into small developments. So it's easier to work on percentages if you're dealing with 20 than it is if you're dealing with 6.
They shouldn't phase in a unit of 6.
Hmm?
They shouldn't have phases if you have 6 units.
Maybe.
Depends on how much.
Yeah.
How many partners?
We also talked about adding language that whatever system we end up with, the affordable housing program gets right of first refusal in the case of for sale units.
That's huge, community rebuilds has that,
Yeah.
that's part of their, they have a lien, and then they also have right of first refusal.
So when I listened to the recording, I didn't think that the comments about the next one were real specific, but basically we brought up to add fee structures and tax incentives if possible. That'll be part of the program. However, that developer is going to develop the project. And so he'd be pursuing tax incentives if he wants to or needs to, I guess at that stage. And then anything else will be embodied in our improvements agreement or the deed restrictions.
Can we go back to percentages again? We haven't decided what we want yet in that, okay.
The only one, 20% is already in there.
Yeah.
And then we certainly decided on the 5% minimum for very low to extreme.
And we don't have a trigger yet? We do have a trigger. Sorry, I can find it.
No, we do not.
Okay.
And that's exactly right.
I'd really like to.
Because we had talked about at 20 units and then it was like, well, whatever we
Yeah.
decide. So I think that's a good point.
And I'm thinking like, thinking about some lots, if it's a small lot that you would typically be able to put just one house on, maybe a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house or something, you could get it so it's like, I think one of the illustrations that David showed, where it's, a condo or twin home kind of situation, you end up having like 5 units. And I'm just, with the percentages, it seems very strange to try to squish 5 into percentages of 20, 80, and then 5%.
Sure.
But at the same time, we want to make sure, I don't know, we certainly don't want to, we always want the 5% to apply in some capacity. We always want that maximum 20% in some way. I'm wondering how that would translate to something that's smaller.
Like, is that managed by the trust that's divvying out the housing around town? But then if you're developing your own lot, how do you know how much money you're gonna make off of it? Is it gonna go to a very low income person or market rate or regular, what's the deal with that?
I think 20 is a nice number.
Yeah.
Because 20, if you build 20 units, you're gonna have one minimum,
Yeah.
low or very low.
Yeah.
Right now, it doesn't seem like very much to me, but if we do have to have some kind of trigger, I would like to see the 5% increase, but you guys have decided on the 5%. So 20 to me seems like the logical place for that trigger, because that's when you can have one unit.
Yeah.
Or what if you're building under 20 units, it has to be extremely low, very low, low income. If you build over 20 units, then you can include market rate.
Yeah, that's what I'm most concerned about is for the smaller ones, because I feel like just the way that Moab's set up, the way you're going to see this, people want, there's so many places where you could put 5 units on a, what's one right now. Like, I keep thinking of the 200 North Community Rebuilds built, where it was the super weird long lot, and they have the 3, they have the twin home, and then one in the back. It's like, you could have had a double level and had one up here, one down here, it'd be kind of a cool shape or whatever.
So
I'm just wondering how we make these apply. If we don't have a trigger, we have a trigger at 20, which seems reasonable for those very strict percentages. How do we still say, here's how much low, here's how much very low? Do we just glob it all together in those
We just don't know
situations?
how much it would cost to develop those units right now. Like, how much is it gonna cost if you build something that's 20 units or up, or 10 units or down, or, what are those?
I don't think that makes any difference.
No,
I think if we're doing a
yeah.
pad, the cost to the builder does not make any difference.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know why that would.
I came up with the 5 after a drive around on last Sunday and just took a map and circled the lots, like you said, why aren't the 5 here instead of 1?
I guess my question is really just how do we, if we have a threshold for these percentages at 20 or more?
No. My threshold would be only for the extremely low.
Oh,
So
okay.
if I have a 10-unit thing,
Yes.
only 20% of those 10 units could be market
But
rate.
otherwise there is no,
They have to be, whatever the other percentages we decide on.
yeah.
But if there's only 10 units, one of them does not have to be extremely low or very low, but the rest of those units must be below market. That's the way I look at this. But if you have 20 or more units, you have to have at least one extremely low. And the rest of them extend depending on the percentages that we decide on.
Yeah,
That's the way I would.
I like that. I like that. I guess I'm just at general percentages then,
Yeah.
but just for just a few units,
It can be difficult to figure out which,
what the percentages.
how those percentages are gonna work.
Because then
if
we're
you're 5 units.
inherently, you know, if it's a multi-unit building, we're inherently saying like how much square footage they ended up having to have based on our percentage.
I think it's pretty easy. I think if you don't have something that you can take 20% of, then you say only one can be market rate. So 5 units, I can't take 20% of that and make a market rate unit. But if it's 5 units, then I can't make the 20%, then only one can be market rate. I think if we just come up with numbers like that, it would make sense.
Yeah.
So, forgive me, but was your proposal then at 10 or less than 10?
Less than 10.
And one unit, only one unit can be market rate. Is that correct?
Yeah, so for example, if I have 10 units, 20% of 10 units is 2 units. So that works. 2 units
Okay.
can be market rate. If I have 5 units, 20% of 5 is 1 unit. 1 unit can be market rate. If I have 4 units, 20% of 4 does not make a whole house.
Yes.
Yeah.
So five or less would be.
4 or less, because 5 means one.
Then you get
20%
one
of
market
5.
rate.
Right, 20% of 5 would give you 1 market rate.
Right.
If you have 4,
Okay.
that's when you have to say, okay, you've reached the bottom level, you still have to have, only can have 1 market
So
rate.
if you have 2, one of those gets to be market rate?
Because it's an affordable housing, it's not a market rate housing.
That, I agree with you.
That just seems high, it was like, that seems high to me,
Yeah.
that was the interesting thing about that.
Yeah.
But
Once
that,
you get down
again,
to
that
2.
market rate may be offsetting the cost of.
Yeah.
The lower,
Yeah.
especially in a 2.
This, I
Especially
like,
too.
that makes sense to me, having it broken out that way, just looking at the percentages, and just how it would apply if it was
Yeah.
over, under, and that
And I
makes sense.
think that applies to everything, so if the 20% doesn't go in evenly, then the market rate is rounded down, not rounded up.
Yes.
I agree with that. I worry from my past that the developer walking into the construction loan is going to shoot the pooch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And for sure, that's what we look at. But you determine that, you want it to fly.
Yes.
So if you don't make it so it fly, then
But
what's
if
the
we,
use?
if we make them all market rates, we are affordable housing anyway.
Yeah.
So
Well, but you kind of are, because you're bringing it down lot size and home size. You're gonna make it so it's at least gonna be affordable to the people who can't afford a big home. But we don't wanna make it so they're trashy looking either.
Right.
So we have to have a happy medium there where the developer's gonna make money, they've gotta be looking nice, and still be affordable for those who can't afford a home.
Maybe something along the line of 2 moderate, 1 market, 2 very low. You might be able to do the math and do that through.
But, and I think if we cap that market, I think that the rest of the numbers will come when we fit our percentages in. But we gotta cap the market rates.
Oh, I agree.
I know.
I agree.
So,
I was just throwing it out.
Yeah.
Might be something that passes the. passes around.
So currently, we have it at 20% market rate.
Maximum,
maximum.
for every development,
So-
everything that applies for a pad, their plan, they cannot have more than 20% of the market rate.
But now we're talking about things where we can't get a 20%
Yeah,
part of the units.
For the most part, that's going to be when you're under 10
Right.
units.
Right. So we have to make the 20% cap, but you get down to 2 units and you're gonna have 50% of the market rate. So there's gotta be a way that we can word that in our code that
Yeah.
says, 20 or more, 20% market rate, 10 or more, 10 or less, could make a chart of that.
Yes, that seems reasonable.
Let me scroll down.
And I can think about that and write something down if you want me to.
That would be very helpful. Math is.
Now, ways
Yes,
that might seem-
yes.
Next page.
I know.
So we had talked about this. The improvements agreements would say subdivision approval is contingent upon construction of housing units. So there, we're tying the lot and the house together. So you could not have a developer come in and just say, I'm out of here, after they sell the lot. So they'd have to be building houses, or they may want somebody, a property owner or a potential property owner may want someone else to build the house for them. Maybe it's their brother or whatever. But they are a licensed contractor, then that can be a possibility. Also, we talked about phasing, that no additional phases until the phase is completed or built out to 80% or some other level. So new phases will be approved as previous phases are completed.
So again, this goes back to the question that and if I missed something, please let me know. But you have a homeowner with a 1 acre lot and they take off a chunk and put one tiny house or 2 tiny houses on it, and one of them is market rate. They finish the project, they take off another chunk and put another 2 tiny houses on the lot, and one is market rate. Can they do that?
No.
It's got to do 20%.
But now they don't own the first 2 that they did.
But that would be phases, and then
Yeah,
all
we would look at
phases
the entire
count
project.
together.
Yeah,
So you would need to,
so
when
they'd have
you
to
apply
sell
for
their
the
house to
pad.
somebody else, and then somebody else could do it on the same lot.
I don't, if someone was going to do something under a pad, 2 lots, I would say no.
Especially not on the lot that they've
Not unless you're doing all of them that are that pad.
Yes.
No, man. Yes, it would.
That's the
That's right.
All have to be moderate income.
I mean, she's right, though.
I think we
If a person owns a little piece of land on this side of the street, and he owns another one over on the other side of the street, that's 2 different developments.
Yes.
Yes.
But that's 2 different site plans, and then the city will review it to see if they're connected.
I don't think they'll disagree with it. I don't think they would be down on it. They want this to happen.
Yeah.
If on First North that you were talking about, if she goes across the street and does it, hey, hats off to
It's
her.
different.
We might even encourage that, but who's making sure that the person who's subdividing the phases is getting the right numbers?
Well, I mean, you're right. If you can see that's going to
If you're
happen.
doing 4 units, you're not getting any market rate.
My point is, the city at some
Unless
point will
you're
say,
doing 4
you're
units?
trying to
Yeah.
serve them.
You have to do 5 units to do 1
No,
market rate.
that is not what
Allison
Allison
was
was just
thinking to do-
contemplating.
What, 2 units and do 1 market rate?
It could be as much as half if there's only 2 units.
Right.
I mean, like Brian said,
I would go with that.
you're still doing smaller lots, so we really are increasing the number of lots that are available downtown.
I think in order to avoid what you're talking about though, maybe we do say four or less, like,
Yeah.
you don't get
But
market
if
rate.
somebody's only willing to give 10,000 square feet of their 1 acre right now, we would rather take that. Would we
True,
not?
true.
Yeah, this is
Well, I think-
interesting. But you couldn't say have 5 acres, do phase 1 moderate, or 1 market rate, 1 low income, phase 2, 1 market rate, 1 low income. That whole lot, that development would need to all be planned
Right.
at once. You
And I
could
think-
not split the phases for the percentages. That seems very clear based on the
And I think
revisions.
we can,
And that would be the biggest concern, is that people would have 10 acres, they would apply to the city to
I can see this
subdivide
happening.
it into 5 lots.
That's why you make the most money off the project.
Right, I can see
Yeah.
this happening, which to me is something we should be considering, that, they do subdivide off 10,000 square feet, they do 2 units. I mean, they're probably going to subdivide off smaller than that.
They've actually tried to do that down there.
2 units, and then they come back in and they want to do 2 more units, but they haven't done this phases.
Could we make some restriction on property that has been subdivided or in some way within the last 10 years is not eligible for?
I don't know about 10 years, but we can
There's
certainly
some
clarify
time or
that.
something, we would, yeah.
A small
How do
lot
we-
is being created for to fall under the pad.
Yes,
We're gonna keep track of that.
Yes.
Now this is a phase. It's
Yes.
not-
Right.
It's
Something,
not a separate.
Exactly.
there needs to be some language in
Yeah.
there about that so that,
yeah,
Yeah.
because I can see something like that happening. Somebody comes in, they own an acre, they're like, well, I'm gonna just subdivide off 2,000 square feet. This one
Yeah.
gets 1,000 and this one
Yeah.
gets 1,000 and this one is low and this one's market rate. And then 6 months, a year later, they come back in with another 2,000 square foot subdivision of that same parcel, and it's like, hang on, something's looking a little bit fishy here.
So it's the parcel that we need to keep track of.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's got to be a way to stop double dipping on the site plan.
right.
But as soon as you subdivide it legally, it's a separate parcel.
It is, that's the thing, is that now you've subdivided it off, it has its own parcel numbers, it's not even affiliated with this parcel.
do
Right.
we
And
have
original
to
parcel.
approve a pad application in every situation?
If it satisfies the adopted code requirements.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then you can't stop it.
You know, I'm sure it's an ordinance.
You can't?
Because if
Okay,
you
yeah.
didn't have to, then I mean, you could certainly take that into account as the city to look at the history of adjacent properties.
Right.
Yeah.
And it'd be words, you know, second subdivision of the property does not constitute a separate and distinct development.
Yes.
Right.
Do trailer homes fall into this as well?
No, they don't have foundation.
They can have.
Well, if it would, then.
Well, I'm just wondering, if you driven up Mill Creek and gone around the corner up there,
This is an excellent point. Brian was wondering if we could have a higher density trailer park.
because that's what's gonna happen. You
Well,
can just
currently
go
under
that
our code, to have a mobile home park, you have to have 10 acres.
well, I'm just throwing it out. So what you're saying is that no, a trailer cannot pull up there.
Well, a manufactured home can,
Can.
but a mobile home cannot. I
Okay.
mean, there are separate building
Yeah, that's what I
standards
mean.
for them.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we need to say something about that, because as you all know about the corner on Mill Creek, when you go around over to Washington Fold,
Yeah.
we all aware of that?
Yeah.
What do you have, 6 of them there?
Yeah.
Maybe more?
Those are used for short-term rentals.
They
They're
are?
built to an ANSI standard. They are not built to a residential code or to HUD code, so those wouldn't even
But
qualify.
have a look at it, have a look at how nice that looks, right? Expect that, but worse. because-
I don't think it looks terrible, and who's to say that, I mean, what if somebody likes the appearance of that and would like to live in that development? I don't,
Okay,
who are we
okay.
to decide that they,
But
Yeah.
for me, that goes back to occupancy.
right.
Yes.
And it might become profitable under this adapt to white box trailer park area.
I'm glad to hear Summer say that that's not part of this
Right.
thing.
Well, the units that you're talking about don't meet the International Residential Code or HUD, so they could not be used
They
in this
cannot.
That's
development.
what I
Good,
meant by
good,
saying
because-
it's not found.
You gotta consider that.
Well, that's state law.
Yeah,
You can't use an ANSI standard
for a dwelling.
constructed.
The HUD
It's
could
an
have,
RV. basically.
technically the HUD could have higher design qualification standards that you couldn't it if you don't meet the design process of like what we think this should look like or something like that, you
I
know.
mean, USDA certainly does rural development.
Right.
They have pretty strict standards.
They do, and I mean, if you think about the types of loans that people are going to be able to get on some of those units, you're looking at that, those higher standards.
Yeah.
I struggle with, I mean, saying something doesn't look good. I mean, it's a matter of opinion, and where you might not think that's an attractive development, I don't think it's terrible looking. I don't think I don't necessarily know that we want to rule out certain things because
Yeah.
we don't think they look good. I mean,
Moab hasn't really gotten there yet.
Right.
Some towns have super strict design standards, and you have to do this, and this, and we don't do that.
and we're funky, we're eclectic, we're different, we're not, not everything looks the same, is built the same, and
Stucco every
Right.
single thing. Yeah.
so I just,
But we are trying to clean up our city, though.
Not through this.
We have been, for a long time, we've been trying to get
But
rid
I
of.
mean, not through this, what we have in front of us
This
right
one.
now.
Yeah.
I just think, well, first of all, here's my thought. I think it's inappropriate of us to try to apply standards to what's ostensibly to trying to get, it doesn't seem fair to just put it on people who are lower income or moderate income or very low income. Like if that needs to be something that's citywide, then that should be citywide. I just don't think the first time it should show up should be in our affordable development ordinance. That just kind of feels icky to me personally.
This might be outside of our scope at this point,
Yeah.
getting this approved efficiently.
I mean, the purpose of this ordinance is to create a way to have creative developments and smaller scale developments that can be affordable from many levels. Are we achieving that? Are we not?
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what we're looking at, is that, is this ordinance going to create the ability for someone to come in and create a development that works for them and that is affordable for people that live here and work here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody's for that.
Yeah, we're just mentioning the scope.
Right.
It's because we're also passionate about making Moab a nice place to live.
Right.
This has been our only discussion on the planning commission since half of us have been on the planning commission, so it's hard not to just sort of like keep blinders and.
Right.
Jeff, oh, go ahead. Chief, you
The only other thing was that I did distribute a template of an improvements agreement that we could possibly use instead of having. We've talked about this on staff level also, and rather than having everything going to council, they approved that template and then we fill in all the blanks and add any of the appendices or whatever to that, as well as drawings and cost estimates and all that stuff. So that it covers a multitude of things at one time. And then the deed restrictions would be that second part that would spell it out for individual properties and those property owners or renters that would be involved in the contracts. Anyway, so that covers that.
I think I maybe mentioned it one time, but just the idea of, looking at not necessarily looking at the symptoms, but trying to analyze where the problems are in the first place with housing and affordability and prices in town is second home occupiers or owners. And is there any way that we can, in this pad, restrict residency in some way?
You mean as far as like a second home?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of all the potential ways this could sort of like blow up and accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. It seems like if someone who
We have a lot of year-round residents right now that could benefit from this, so maybe some kind of requirement that you have to live in town a certain number of months.
that's what I mean, I would just hate to see
Beyond the tourist season.
even the
Well, that's-
even the market rate house, I would hate to see that just to be somebody's second home from Colorado.
I think we
Because
have.
you can see that happening.
It's in here about who's a resident. But
I didn't
at
see
least
that.
for some parts of it. But on
Yeah,
the other hand, if anybody said with campus in Moab, like running for an office, I ran for an office once. And I was surprised the number of people I talked to who were not residents. They had a home here, they would spend perhaps 3 months here.
yes.
Not all at once, maybe a week at a time or a month at a time. But it was a lot. I would guess that in some neighborhoods, even neighborhoods where you did not expect that, it was easily 20% of the neighborhood.
So how do we make sure we're not just building houses that people who meet the criteria but don't actually reside in Moab
Right.
most of the time could
Yeah,
buy? Because
absolutely.
that seems to be another big kind of blind spot.
Yeah, and when a realtor gets involved, and nothing against realtors, but it's gonna go statewide or.
Oh, yeah.
countywide,
Oh, yeah.
And they'll be snatched right up so quick.
That's the thing, you could see all of the market rate units and most of the moderate rate units being snatched up by non-residents.
So under,
Yeah.
Because they still meet their
under
qualifications.
affordability controls, there are things about to be eligible,
Right.
you have to meet certain criteria. And thought it said resident, but.
At least one person in the household must be either
Employed
employed
full-time.
full-time in Grant County, disabled, or over 60 years of age and retired from the workforce.
Right, I knew there was.
Full-time grant.
Oh, that's good.
Where am I, what page are you at?
19 and 20.
Yeah.
Bottom of 19, top 20.
It's under affordability controls.
I hate to be, I don't want to be ageist, but I don't think that covers us. We have plenty of people who have a second home who are over 60 and they would meet those requirements.
And
I get the spirit of where this is, but I think that, I mean, my mom could,
All persons
My second home
occupying
here.
affordable housing must use
Must
private
utilize.
housing as their sole place of residence.
oh yeah, that covers it.
What about people with like a history living in Moab? Is it a 6-month stint that you have to live here to get this?
I don't think we have that in here.
It's
I'm
not
not
in
sure
here.
we would do that.
I think at the time you apply, if you are employed full-time, you fit under this.
Yeah.
Because we want the seasonal people to.
Yeah.
Coming in April and
Yes.
finding someplace to
Yeah.
live and
Yeah.
beginning in September.
And if they come in and show you their pay stub and they're working full-time, I would say.
No, my impression of this is that we're doing affordable housing in tiers over time. And at this point, we have a lot of people who live in town and work in town who can't find a place to live, or they have substandard housing. And so this would apply to them. And then other things like bunk houses and trusts that businesses would pay into for their own employees' housing would be a little bit more seasonal than this is. But this is like for the people that we have here right now who don't have homes.
No, I agree, but there are, we get seasonal workers who do not have homes, and so
Yeah.
there may be those folks that come in.
And full-time workers, my wife was having that every time, putting on a second shift because they're just not workers.
Yeah.
And then what about your moms who really only want to work 25 hours a week because they have kids and they're single and they only make $12,000,
And they'll fit in the very low income.
but they don't work full-time?
But if they fit under this is their primary place of residence.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's the other, all persons occupying affordable housing units must utilize the housing as their sole place of residence.
And that covers the whole pad.
Yeah, but they still have to meet one of those 3 criteria in B, which I think Marianne is saying, what if they don't? If you're not full-time employed, especially in a way that you
So maybe there
have
should be
pay
orders,
stub
not ands.
to show.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
Those should be orders, not ands.
Or is there a better model out there that
Yeah.
other cities have adopted to handle this kind of thing?
I mean, I honestly think C covers my concerns with it.
But it does leave out someone who might
C doesn't. C is just
C
persons
doesn't.
occupying affordable housing must utilize the housing as their sole place of residence.
How about
That's
if
my
we
main
just-
concern.
They have to meet all of these. You have to meet A, one of the 3
Yeah.
things would be all.
Do we even need B though?
That's what I'm saying. Do we need
If the
B?
persons comprising the household must have a combined household income which does not exceed 100% of Grant County EMI, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
And then all persons occupying affordable housing units must utilize the housing as their sole place of residence.
B seems not, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's some blind spot C, but B, my concerns about residency and second homes, those are covered by C. And B would be another way to kind of catch those, but do we need B at all now? I would venture.
Well,
that
I'm
we
just
don't.
wondering how enforceable B is. I mean,
Yeah,
it might be something that the person that builds them and is renting them can check, but I don't know that it's something that the city wants to get involved in checking.
Yeah, it seems C covers what we can cover with regard to trying to prevent unoccupied second homes, mostly unoccupied second homes. And C, if any, or B, excuse me, if anything, would disqualify some folks that we're hoping to.
They would certainly disqualify someone that Mary Ann's talking about.
Someone who doesn't work full-time.
Well, how about just-
Or doesn't have a pay stub job full-time,
How
there's
about
plenty
just
of
being-
that.
Well, that's true, that's the other. But how about just being employed in Grant County, not employed full-time?
I think the requirements to be able to, it seems like we're being redundant in a way that could potentially put another roadblock up, because if the eligibility is being checked by HUD or by HASU, they have all of those. They require proof of employment and income and all that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. This makes the city happy, but now you're one more check to make sure that we're getting the people we want into the houses.
And anybody who's renting property is gonna want somebody who has a paycheck.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
But that's up to the person that's renting the property, not,
Not
Not
the
the
city.
city.
So I say we strike B.
I'm good to strike B.
I think so.
Because I think between A and C,
Yeah.
You got it covered.
C covers the sole place of residence thing, so that makes it something that you can check on as the city, once someone has applied for this.
You can, maybe not easily.
Maybe not, but I mean, we want to do what we can to deter it and.
But I don't know that you're gonna have a lot of people trying to take advantage of that.
So any other big concerns you would have? At this point?
Has everyone looked at the R2 area? Have you ridden your bike around town and is everybody happy with your area?
Yes, R2 is going, this is going to change R2.
So imagine worst case scenario, best case scenario, whatever your location is, what I do as I'm riding around.
It's kind of interesting, because my husband brings this up quite a bit, that he says that a lot of the city is R2, and it's going to totally, he said, do you guys know how much of the city is zoned for high-density housing anyway? And people just don't know that.
No, they don't.
And it's like, you're right, we're like, this or this or this piece of
And it's
property.
really expensive to build high density.
Right. And right downtown, and Trinidad, I mean, it's just amazing. It's just, it's difficult.
I can only think of actually a few lots in the R2 zone where this would be likely to happen. I think that if this is going to happen, it's going to be having places where we are expanding.
Not yet incorporated.
But, but what we want is to find a way to be able to use little bits and pieces, like if you go up and down some of these streets, like,
Is it Roadstown?
well, I was in
Mill Creek?
well, along Mill Creek, but I was even thinking between Mill Creek and 100 North, going up those streets. There are some very large lots up there that are not yet developed. And there are, so if you drive around, there's one right on 3rd South, by the school, not far from the school. It's a nice, pretty good sized piece of property. And with this, you could easily put 3 or 4 property pieces in there. So that, if you go around, there's a lot of places where you can find little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be big things. They're not going to be something we're going to be doing 20 units.
There's a few, I'm sorry, there's a few, if you find very innovative development that I found from my past, that could be developed quite well, very close.
Would we be able to locate, have a liaison to work with property owners and say, hey, this is a perfect property for low-income housing? Is there any way, for,
Yeah, for high density housing, is there any way we can help
They're still-
you understand what's required to do this?
Well, unfortunately, with that kind of thing, and historically, big pieces of property in town, mine is included, a piece on this side of town included, is also very developable. The problem is number one, it's sewer, it's not it's septic, it's not sewer. Second off, they want an incredible amount of money for those pieces of property. And that's so, it's just so cost prohibitive that you, I mean, I would, if I had the money, I mean, I'm dead serious, I would develop it in a second. But the problem is the families, a lot of these families, old Moab, are very tied up in family trusts and stuff. So I mean, the people that own a piece out from King Creek there, all the families up in Salt Lake, and it's like cut up between 7 people. And it's just crazy. It's just nuts. The legalities of trying to get some of these bigger pieces of property they're just kind of nightmares.
And that's what our public hearing process is about.
Right.
With the Blackburn property, we passed, as planning commission, we passed it through to the city, and the city listened to all of the complaints and all of the people that were there, made their decision, and I think that's the whole purpose of this open government, is to allow those people to do their research and talk to the city council and to show up for those public hearings and make their voice heard. And so I don't know that it has to be our job.
I've been approached and had somebody just say, hey, I have this huge piece of land, they're outside of R2, they want to make it affordable housing, how do we do that?
Right now, you can't.
Right.
Yeah, so
You
like,
cannot.
That's why.
so
That's
it's
what
like
this
people
is.
like that are gonna make this happen for us, that want to do good for the community, how do we help them? How do we help that happen? Aren't those the people that we really
Yeah.
like to work with?
This overlays that, right?
This.
Yeah.
This is how we help them.
Well, this would be R2 only.
No.
This applies.
All of ours.
Oh,
That's all residents.
It just, it changes R2 in ways that it does not change the other zones. Right.
How?
And the
Because it allows much more density than is currently allowed in R2.
Okay.
The unfortunate thing, the
But-
argument more than the single family homes, and it probably should have been required that you do build 2 units on a lot in the R2.
Yeah.
But, I mean, basically, it's being defended like it is in R1 at this stage, and it's developed in a different way than, at least since the 50s. It's, a lot of the R2 has been zoned that way, and that was the predominant zone that the council put out there at that time.
And that's basically the way most of our zoning was done. It was done by what existed when they first started. So
It has to be invaded. And then, I was approached Sunday by 2 different groups about open space between them. How would it be profitable for them? So I told them to wait.
They want that. Do they?
Yeah, I'd like to also mention that a lot of places have open space designations, and I'm not talking about just like you build an apartment complex and you have to have a playground there that never gets used, but community open space or social open space is something that oftentimes communities have for density. So like if we're gonna have this much density, you have to have this much open space. So that people aren't just stuck in their houses. Like you have high density, but you also have somewhere to go in the community. So how are we considering the trade-off between where do you go in the daytime if you have a house that you don't want to spend the entire day in?
So there actually is a draft ordinance that applies to that. It's on a formula of it. So many square feet per unit, and then that also evaluates what type of unit is that. Is it a studio? Is it a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, that kind of thing.
And you have to surpass.
I can sure show that to you.
Yeah. Because like if all of our agricultural land gets turned into subdivisions, where are the new parks going to be for those areas and subdivisions?
And parking's always prohibited.
in Utah, it will be very difficult to condemn private property and put it into a public park.
Mhm.
You'll probably
city's limited by, again, parking space, 1 acre. About, you could put 100 to 125 parking spots. So that limits even your vertical growth, because the city requires, what is it, 1.5 per area?
We are doing a parking study right now, that might change that.
It's actually done. So it deals largely with commercial areas, but pretty fast.
And then part of the reason we're doing this is because in fact, for large developments, we did require open space for, as a percentage of the law. So part of that's what we're looking at. Well, now we have all this open space, so actually people don't do this. So this is, we're trying to regulate some of that. But those are also not public parks.
Triangle, dog walks, I remember the way developers need open space.
So we are working on, like, just like you have to have a 15-foot street setback, you can also have 15 square feet of park designated to a place that, which you can't call a park.
It's
private land.
It's within, well, it'd be combined with the development, it'd be part of the development.
But as a city, are we prepared to be more sophisticated and go in and say, we're expecting this density, we're prepared to rezone? Are we capable of negotiating easements and right-of-ways and parks and everything we need to have a higher density community that's healthy?
Sure.
Daybreak. Daybreak up in Salt Lake City, that's exactly what we're doing. That's pretty much, that's exactly.
Well, there's,
I know that's, but that's basically what we're asking.
it is. But they took one piece of property owned by Kennecott. We're working in a space that has tons of property owners, so that's why I think we need to have some more discussions about how can we make this work for everybody. Because our property value is going to tank if this just turns into the suburbs. Well, you can have, if we're doing industrial tourism, we could just be completely paved with the grids of suburbs and all their agricultural open space. And what does that do for community character and people who want to work here?
I hate to disagree, I grew up in the suburbs of Detroit, I'm very proud that we moved out of that city. So I always, am very proud that I grew up in the dignity of the suburb.
It's just a sprawl, we just don't want
It's a sprawl, there's a difference between suburbs and sprawl.
Sprawl, yes, sprawl.
And that's really, suburbs are great, but sprawl is not.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Where are we at?
Jeff? Do you have anything else?
I think that covered everything because we talk about sales price calculation, maximum appreciation. So 21 is where I added the development of for sale lots. I think everything else is, that's where we ended. Everything else was fine. Enforcement, extension of the MULA.
Quick explanation while Jeff's going through here, because he's looking at the old version, and what is in your packet, our city attorney combined this with the assured workforce housing policy. I dug my heels in and said, no, we're not doing these as combined ordinances. They are separate because Pat is way further along. So we will get a version to you that actually has the changes that Jeff has made. I'll email that out probably Monday or Tuesday so that you guys have, well, this is the one from the last packet. So the one from the last packet has the changes that we talked about.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
So today, the one we got this week dropped a piece about subdivisions. And this is now not, subdivisions are not permitted in this latest version. And this is a pure subdivision, you have to actually do a development, not a subdivision.
Right.
But I have a couple of questions. When, in the very beginning, that in the purpose, section A, I think that maybe this could even be just a finding in the resolutions that we need to reference, that this is consistent with our general plan in the Grand County and Moab City, Moab Housing Study and Housing Plan.
Yeah, and that would be good in the recitals.
Yeah. Let's see. And then under 1768.68.050, let's see. Where this performance standards, and yet all of the performance standards are addressed in much more detail in a couple of sections later. It seemed to me would be good to reference that with that 17.6850. Let's see, because, yeah, so when we get down to 17.68.070, you get a lot more things about that are kind of related to all of those performance standards in 1768.50. Yeah. So in other words, you've got all of these things that they're like, so the 1768.70 is a lot more specific about things like drives and parking and access and public dedications and all of that.
Right.
So, just so that they can, eventually if somebody's reading it, they might come to it, but if they get to that, they think, okay, we're okay, but they didn't get to that part.
Well, yeah, I see your concern.
So what will probably end up happening is the application for a plan affordable development will have these submittal requirements. So even if they don't read any further in the ordinance to get past the design standards, when they bring in their application, they're going to be required to have all these documents and all this information.
And then I think there are a few things that we'll need to be kind of careful about. Let's see if I can find that. I have this example here. I had one where, when they're doing something and they come to you in the planning department, you say, there's some leeway, there may be additional requirements, or they may be able to get waivers or something. And when those kinds of things are done, we need to be really careful that we build that into that resolution when we approve something, so it's not arbitrary or not part of the record.
Be part of your findings or conditions.
Right.
And also we have to make sure that those end up in the development or improvements agreement. That would be the biggest thing right there. Because that's a contract between the developer and the city. So. Good point.
I could probably go back and find out exactly which ones I thought raised that concern for me. I just thumbed through it really quickly, but I got it in my notes. So.
Okay.
Okay, so since we've gone through our discussion, item number 3, Let's do our number 4, future agenda items. Jeff and Rosanna.
You know, I have a list.
I bet it's more pad.
It is more fun. I will say that we are getting some pressure from the council. They really would like to see this moving forward. It's been requested that we set a public hearing date for it. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but we are getting some pressure to get it moving.
Didn't we talk about that last time? About the date, general date was October-ish?
So,
First meeting in October is when I've kind of been
Yeah.
pushing for, but I don't know if you all are comfortable with that.
Yeah, I feel like we've exhausted our own knowledge, and it would be really nice to have.
Yeah, there'll be things we're not foreseeing in the earlier.
And let's a fresh set of eyes take a look at it, or maybe they could think of some things that we didn't think of. But we've certainly covered a lot of ground.
Well, I'd like to wait until I get the city to review these considerations that I've asked for on our discussion last week. Because I think if they agree, then we'll at least need some time to discuss it. Not 2 meetings, definitely not.
So we're talking the 11th of October? Okay.
23rd of October is our joint meeting, is that right?
I don't remember.
Council. Yeah.
I think so.
There we go. So it is intended right now, I talked to Chuck Williams, the city engineer, and we're trying to put together at the joint meeting, we'll have a downtown master plan presented to you and council, as well as the parking study and plan. That we're both reaching a conclusion as far as the documents. Pretty exciting stuff.
So is the assured housing policy still on the future agenda items? Or are we waiting to get through PAD before we even start talking about it?
So the council has a pretty tight deadline for this. They'd really like to get PAD through and get the assured workforce housing policy through shortly after, because we do have a time frame that we're expiring. The resolution expires November 22nd, so they really want to have that shortly after the PAD. Like probably a week or so after.
PAD could be used to satisfy.
Part of
The assured housing policy.
we still need to talk about percentages and things like that for the assured housing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we may have that for your next workshop, so we can talk about that. Like I said, Chris sent this, or Steve sent this to us as one ordinance, and it needs to be broken out into 2 because we are a lot further along with PAD than we are with the assured housing policy. So we'll set that for the next workshop for our next meeting. And we do have a couple of developments coming your way on the next agenda. Final plat for a subdivision so far.
Okay. So I'll call for adjournment at 7:34 p.m. Thank you, everybody.